Welcome in, everybody, to the Two for Talking podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. I've got Josh Yohe with The Athletic and Joe Bartnick, comedian extraordinaire and Pittsburgh resident for the week. He's in town, so ladies and gentlemen, you might want to keep your ears peeled for a good Joe Bartnick laugh in the arena the next couple nights. You'll be able to hear him.
Hopefully not a cry.
Yeah, hopefully it's not crying. But, we got the Stars tonight. But before we get into that, it started off the week with a blown 2-goal lead to lose in the shootout on the island. Then on Thursday night, they just blew the game. And then, Friday, I think we kind of expected it to go really poorly and then back-to-backs with a rested Caps team who was on fire. But let's start with the positive. They looked good on Friday night. And I'd say the most positive thing I saw, Josh, is in the third period, they locked it down. They played Mike Sullivan's defense.
I thought the third period was the best period they've played all season. I don't know why they can't play like that all the time, or at least in that vicinity. We haven't seen it. Maybe they found something that period. For their sake, I would hope so. I think in general, guys, they're playing much better. They've got points in 4 or 5 games now. They should have won the game on the island, and even though they lost pretty soundly in Carolina 5-1, I don't think they played as poorly in that game as the score necessarily indicates. I thought there was a goaltending disparity, and I just thought Erik Karlsson was so bad in the first period of that game that he literally cost them 2 goals. More on him later. In general, they are playing better. That game in Washington, Joe, that was their best win of the season by far, and the Capitals are playing really well. They beat the hell out of St. Louis one night later, like 8-1 or whatever. They're steamrolling everybody right now. The Penguins outplayed them. They deserve to win that game. And we cannot ignore the goaltending performance in Washington on Friday night. Joel Blomqvist, again, really good. He's obviously their best goaltender right now. And how about him getting the start again tonight? I get it. I understand it. He's been their best goalie. You got Jarry back. I figured they would throw him right back into the lineup. Instead, they're not. It's very interesting, isn't it, Joe?
It is very interesting, Josh. You made so many points that I want to get to and unpack. It's so much is true. I think the first being the best goaltender we have is Joel Blomqvist by far. I don't even think it's close. No. But I think we can get to that maybe later. I did love their game against the Capitals. I'm going to push back a little bit because I think Blomqvist was incredible in the third period. And I think it could have went the other way. Did the Penguins play better than usual in the third? Yes. But I do think, if Jarry or Ned's in there, I don't know if we win that game.
Maybe. No, that's fair.
I think he made some incredible saves.
No, he made a couple. I mean, Washington certainly still had some looks.
Right.
But I think the Penguins just cut down on all the stupid things that they've been doing, right? Like there were no self-inflicted wounds in that period except for Pustinen's outrageously bad offensive zone penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. And that wasn't even like an errant high stick or, he stepped on my stick. He grabbed his stick and held on. We trying to hold a lead, and you're going to let the number 1 goal scorer of all time back on the ice. Not just how was their power play 32nd too, by the way? I was like, it was like, oh my God, they're gonna play us now. They're gonna break their 0 for whatever streak. This is perfect. No, they played much better. And I'll tell you the funny thing was Graves played a little better.
He did.
It seemed to me, I thought Karlsson, me and Corey, when it was after the game, ice time, I thought Karlsson was on the ice for 45 minutes. I didn't see him not on the ice. And I only saw Pettersson laying on the ice. I mean, I said this the post game. He goes down easier than a cheap hooker. He's always laying on the ice. Get up. And I kind of blame him for a lot of this on Karlsson. I really do. Because, we know Karlsson's up ice. What are you doing up ice? Stay back the whole time.
I will say that's one thing we haven't discussed very much. Marcus Pettersson's not playing well. He's not been himself at all. Maybe he's in a slump. I don't know if he has the contract situation on his mind. Maybe playing with Letang and Karlsson for years has him psychologically traumatized. I don't know. He hasn't been himself. Karlsson actually in the Washington game. He was on the ice for both goals against. He didn't necessarily play either one very well, but
he played him terrible.
He did. But he also was incredible with the puck in that game. I will say the pass he made to Bunting on the goal was spectacular. He scores the first goal. He did more good things than bad in that game.
Absolutely.
I'll give him credit. I mean, and if he's going to score, if he's going to be productive, you can live with some of the defensive stuff that you deal with. But you need at least one of those, right? So he was better. And I can tell you from being there the night before in Raleigh, like Sullivan was furious with him. And the whole coaching staff was pretty furious with him, the game he played. Sullivan said after the game that some people, didn't put forth the effort that was necessary to win. He didn't use any names. He never does in those settings, but he didn't really have to. It was pretty clear who he was talking about. So I appreciate that Carlson rebounded the way he did the next night. I think he got the message. He played much better. Hopefully he will start playing at a higher level. God knows the Penguins need it. So we'll see. It's just one win. But like I said, they do have points in 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
They are starting to play better. But again, and Dallas isn't really on top of its game right now.
Well, they've only lost 2 games in North America.
No, that's true. That's true. That's very good.
No, I mean, I think the Stars are an amazing team, and I think thank God I'm going to see him with Bloomfist, because I don't think Jarry would hold up well right now.
No, and
I'm sorry. I get so much to say to you. Like,
go.
I brought this up with Corey. Now, I mean, how long has Carlson been in the NHL? Between 12 and 15 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been
about 15, yeah.
Yeah, he's been to a few practices.
Mm-hmm.
He still doesn't know how to run it, how to defend a 2-on-1.
Oh my God!
He doesn't know what to do.
His job is to take away the pass. That's his job.
Or I've seen guys go directly to the man, the first guy. So that's like, okay, it's the goaltender 1-on-1 with the guy who gets the puck. That. One of those two. He does. He feels bad for himself at the blue line. I'm like, oh geez.
He and Letang both do this sometimes. They both just try to, pickpocket whoever has the puck. Like they're just trying to steal the puck like that. Sometimes if you're talented enough, you can pull that off, but that's not a high percentage play.
It doesn't say Pavel Datsyuk on the back of your jersey.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and especially as a defenseman, it just makes it so easy for whoever has the puck. You just have to get rid of it, and you've got a wide open passing lane. And we have seen Carlson time and time again this season. He just falls down on the ice and just makes a mess of the situation. So some of his decisions with the puck have been bad enough, but when you see that kind of defending, he doesn't need to be a shutdown defenseman. That's just basic hockey fundamental 1-on-1, and he's failing it time and time again. He's been in the league 15 years. He should. The guy's one. I don't know how somebody with 3 Norris trophies doesn't know how to play a 2-on-1. It just defies all imagination. But here we are.
Well, but in his, it would be defense. He played with Mark Mathot, and he played with Pickles Vlasic. He played with guys that were never up ice.
Right. True.
Which is what I think
are always up ice.
Yeah, and I don't know why Pettersson does have a decent shot and stuff, but now you're with Carlson. Stay back.
Right, and it's easy to blame Pettersson, but part of it to me is just the Penguin system in general just encourages defensemen to always pinch and to always jump into the play. I don't mind when Carlson and Letang do that. I don't know why there can't be different rules for those two. But everyone else play a more traditional standard way. And it's not just those defensemen that are the problem. That's part of it. They just don't have enough foot speed at forward positions to get back and to help out those guys when they do jump into the play. It just doesn't work the rotation the way it once did. That's not Carl Hagelin flying back to get into position. It's not. It's Noel Acciari. Guess what? He's not as fast. So I do blame the system for part of the problem here.
Oh yeah, it's not all on Carlson. It's not all on Pettersson. It's just a whole combination of stuff. But I do think that the real coaching shrewd move was breaking up the two-headed monster. Yeah. And like Corey noted that I was pleasantly surprised that Rusty got with Gino. I think that makes all the difference in the world because I also think a Raquel Bunting Gino line has no defensive responsive awareness.
No, that's 100% true. I have always loved Rusty with Gino. I just think he brings out the best habits in Gino. And Gino was the best player on the ice in Washington. He was great. And you saw it on the game-winning goal, just vintage Brian Rush, just barges right to the net like he did. We always call it the Rusty move in the press box. He does it once. He goes on the backhand and then just like barges his way to the net, totally fearless. Gino doing his job, going right to the net. It was just a simple but beautiful goal. And I love those two together. And frankly, I really like Crosby and Raquel together. I think they're always good together.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Joe. It was the perfect time to break those guys up. I had been saying for a while, you put the two-headed monster together to get Sid going. And it worked. Mission accomplished. He looks fine. He looks like Sid. Perfect. You can't leave those two together long-term because the other three lines literally couldn't score. We saw that in the last couple of weeks. Eventually, you have to split them up. And it was the right time.
It was the 80s. Oh, Lemieux's not on the ice. Okay, go to the bathroom, get a beer.
Yeah.
And then also it moves Eller down to the third line, which makes the third line so much better.
Yes, exactly. That's where he should be. That's not a knock on Lars Eller. He's a good player. Right. I don't think he's a top 6 player. I don't think anybody thinks he's a top 6 player. And also Drew O'Connor, who we love, haven't really noticed him that much the last couple of weeks. He needs to play with somebody who can bring out the best in him. I love him on Crosby's line as a guy who just creates turnovers, uses his speed on the forecheck, handles some of the defensive responsibility, uses his size and speed. He's a good third wheel on that line. So, and maybe Bunting is starting to figure things out. I think you can see his confidence level starting to rise again after banging a few in. He needed that. Ultimately, they need him to be a contributor. If he can be kind of that third wheel on the second line, then all of a sudden things look a lot better for them.
Yes, and he's not my favorite, but as long as Rusty's with Gino, like it'll be okay.
No, those two are so good together.
Yeah, it's whoever's there is going to be. They can put anybody there. It's going to be about the same.
And one of the most important things, Joe, to keeping this team, headed in a better direction. And this is nothing the Penguins can control, but keeping Brian Rust healthy is so huge. You see when he's not in the lineup, they are not the same team. It's not just because they miss him, but the trickle-down effect. there's literally nobody to replace him.
It's literally why we didn't make the playoffs last year, because of the 2 weeks. Everyone said it was, they're upset about, losing Snake. And this is, Rusty wasn't playing.
That's right. No, he is so important. He can play with Crosby and Malkin. He's a 25-goal scorer. He's a great penalty killer. Like he draws so many penalties, you name it. And he's as clutch as it gets. It was a huge game on Friday night. Of course he would have a big game and have a big moment. That's who he is. And it's funny, I asked Mike Sullivan before the game about keeping Rust healthy. And I said, Mike, I think he gets hurt all the time just because he plays so hard. When you play that hard, you're going to get hurt. And Sullivan agreed with me. He said, yeah. He said he throws himself into dangerous situations, but we're not going to tell him to stop doing that. That's who he is. That's part of what makes him special. And you just keep your fingers crossed that all those shots he blocks and all the hits he takes, that he can just kind of stay healthy for the rest of the season, because if he does, he makes the Penguins so much better. And like I said, that trickle-down effect makes the third line better, makes the fourth line better. When they're healthy, it enables you to get like a Valtteri Puustinen out of the lineup or whatever. Like it makes everyone better when Brian Rust is healthy.
Yeah, he dropped the notch with that super penny. I've always been a Pusti fan, but that was Simone level ignorance. I chart every bad penalty ever.
In the same building. In fact, it was even in the same corner, I think, where Simone took that penalty. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a flashback.
Game 5, I remember it well.
Oh man, it's
Joe has
funny because Staggy was talking about that the following day, about him and Mets on the morning show. We're talking about how we thought we had him in that series, and he was a couple mishaps. Like, yeah, that one.
Yeah. I'm convinced they win that series if he doesn't take that penalty.
I go to that's one of my biggest regrets in Penguin land.
They were dominating that game. They really were. I don't think the Capitals would have had the wherewithal or toughness to come back from 3-2 down against those Penguins. Just my opinion.
It was literally what O'Connor. It was the O'Connor penalty of 2 nights ago against the Islanders.
Yeah, that's
Literally,
right.
like you opened that door for him.
Oh.
I want to say this about the shootout.
Hmm.
Can Letang come up with a new move? My dad knows that move. Please,
know.
dear God, everyone knows that if he one time just fake backhand and went forehand, the goalie would be in outer space.
You are not wrong. Even Sid does the same thing on shootouts a lot. Like far be it for me to tell Sid how to play the game of hockey, but you got the greatest backhand in the history of the sport. He almost never goes to the backhand on breakaways, which is so odd to me. You would think he would more regularly. He likes to kind of pick corners with the wrist shot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I always see Sid like he almost does the Patrick Kane thing now, where he goes in real slow. I can always hear Mario in my mind saying, "Going with speed on breakaways, going with speed always." But Crosby in particular does not like to. And I do think we see with the big guys in the shootouts and on the breakaways, maybe that's one element to their game that has started to slip a little bit. I don't think we see them. Like 10 years ago, they were all pretty darn good on the shootout. You don't see that quite as much anymore.
Well, that's what's funny. My dad swears by the fact that Crosby never makes a shootout goal. And I'm like, he used to be automatic like 5 years ago. As time I remember, I never remember Gino being great in shootouts, but Gino's great in regular breakaways.
Yes, which is maybe what's better when he doesn't have time to think. I don't know.
Right.
Goes the Mario's point. Go with speed.
Yes, that's a great point. I just wanted to bring that up. Like I'm so sick of seeing that move, and you can't tell me that everyone doesn't know it's coming.
Right. Oh, of course they do. And yeah, historically speaking, Sid's pretty good on shootouts. He's better than most big names. It's weird that the great all-time goal scorers, or at least in the last 20 years, they're not always great on shootouts. Like Ovi's not very good on shootouts at all, for instance. Not really a great breakaway artist. It's just kind of a funny thing. I don't know what McDavid and Dreisaitl's numbers are. I'm guessing pretty good.
Yes, they are. They're pretty.
That doesn't surprise me.
Dreisaitl's is nuts.
Yeah,
one thing that they did, they shaded Ovi a lot on the penalty kill, which I liked. I liked the one time Russ just stood next to him, and it begs the question: why don't they just stand right next to him like they used to do to Mario in the '80s? People would just stand, because you know where they stand, Josh? I brought up the coordinate. They stand exactly where he can hit you in the shin as hard as possible.
It's funny you bring that up. It's funny that the press box in Washington, we kind of sit like in the corner right there where Washington was on that power play. So I had a great view. I'm thinking, man, Rusty's like just standing right in his grill. This is a guy who's played against Washington's power play for a long time. He knows what they want to do.
Right.
And of course, listen, if you totally pull yourself away from the play and stand there, you're basically giving them a 4-on-3. So you have to pick your spots. You have to, you can't make it too obvious, maybe. But with all the injuries, like that's not TJ Oshie in the slot.
That was my exact point.
Yeah.
It's not Oshie and Backstrom anymore.
That's right.
Let's make it a 4-on-3 and take Ovi out.
And maybe that's why their power play is not very good right now, because people recognize that. So the Penguins PK is pretty good, by the way.
Right.
Like they've got between Rusty, Nola Chari's a really good penalty killer. Yeah. Drew O'Connor's a really good penalty killer. Like they've got some guys who could really kill penalties. I think that's been a real bright spot for the Penguins so far.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, it's funny. I actually even think Corey brought it up. How like everyone says how the Capitals have really rebuilding on the fly. It's like, yeah, but you know why? Because Backstrom and Oshie are semi-retired. That's why it looks like they're rebuilding on the fly. They're on the whatever the cap under the they're off the books until they may pull a April surprise and come back like Cooch.
They're on the Vegas IR.
But I would also suggest that those two have really started to slip a little bit also as players. They're getting old.
And 1,000%.
And Kuznetsov was slipping for whatever reason.
Well, I didn't bring him up because I said, because that's I couldn't keep a nose out. I couldn't keep a straw out of his nose.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
But for all this, like, they did it the right way. The guys were hurt. It wasn't like they did it the right way on purpose.
Right. They may have done exactly what the Penguins have done. I mean, who's to say? Right. And I don't think the Capitals are as good as they've played so far. I think they will eventually take a step back. I give them credit, though, that they've played really, really well. I mean,
I made the mistake at the beginning of the year thinking, well, there's no way Charlie Ledyard can play as good last year. Well, I guess he can.
He has. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
No, he's pretty good. I mean, so I think their coach is pretty good too. I think he's done a nice job there.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that they are an interesting team for sure. The Penguins, are looking up at a lot of teams in the standings right now, but it was certainly a better week for them. I'm curious to see how this week goes because you got Dallas tonight. Tough match. I think on paper, Dallas is one of the 3 or 4 best teams in hockey. And they're a very legitimate Stanley Cup contender. It's a tough game tonight. After that, though, you got home to Detroit, at Columbus, home to San Jose. The Penguins better make some hay this week.
They lose tonight. Oh, it's almost like you wish they just throw Jarry out tonight to get shelled. and then come because now we're gonna have Jarry against Detroit. Larkin's hot now after his coach chewed him out.
Yeah,
and they're hungry as hell.
They're playing a little better too. Yeah.
I mean that's not a good Jarry matchup with the Brinkat and Kane. That's not a good Jarry matchup.
No,
I mean Jarry's good matchups are Binghamton.
Right.
There's not many good Jarry matchups right now.
Yeah,
that's true.
But but I'm glad Sully's going with the kid. But that the thing if they didn't go to Sweden and they just played Columbus in Seattle, in Dallas, they'd only have 2 losses.
You might be right. So yeah, they're so good. In many ways, the Stars are like the anti-Penguins. Like they just do everything the right way, and they're so good defensively. It's hard to score on them. It's very difficult matchup. But if the Penguins do indeed lose tonight, and I think we both suspect there's a good possibility of that, like they better get 5 of the next 6 points that are possible the rest of the week. That's my opinion because
they got to beat Detroit clean no matter what.
I mean, it's just this schedule's been so tough, and let me tell you something. It picks up again the week after. The rest of November, you got at Boston, you've got home to Vancouver, you got some other tough games in that stretch. I think Toronto's coming to town soon. You better beat a couple of the bad teams, and there aren't many, but San Jose and Columbus are 2 of them. It's a very important stretch. If they have a bad week and lose a game or 2 against those teams, I don't know that you recover from that. Even though
I don't think you do. You need the next 3. You need. Yeah. I'll give this one. Hey, this is a mulligan. This is whatever. Okay. But you got to beat Detroit clean. You got to beat Columbus clean. I don't care if you give it doesn't even if you have to get to overtime to San Jose on a Saturday night, please.
Ooh. No, that would be a real problem. And I'm so interested, Joe, to see what they do with the goaltending.
That was my next thing. I was gonna say, I floated this to Corey. Is there a little chance that Ned gets traded?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's impossible. I guess it's in play. You can't send Ned to Wilkes-Barre because somebody will claim him on waivers. So
1,000%.
Don't want to lose him for nothing.
No,
he's not Dominic Hasek, but he's a good backup. If nothing,
he's better than Jarry.
Yeah, he is right now for sure. But at the same time with Jarry, and listen, I feel the same about Jarry as you do. But if you're the Penguins, I understand you got to find out about him once and for all if you haven't made up your mind. So you can't just bring him up and just not play him. There's no point in doing that, in my opinion. So you got to play him at some point. I would have played him tonight too. If you lose to the Stars, okay. Whereas now, let's say Bloomquist plays really well, but you lose 3-2 tonight. What if you bring Jarry in against Detroit and he's terrible, and all of a sudden you've lost 2 in a row?
It's 2-0.
Yeah, what do you do?
It's 2-0 after 1 because of Jarry against Detroit. You can't have that. I think the best scenario is they win tonight, right? They win tonight.
Sure.
They Bloomquist wins tonight. He plays against Detroit. Jarry plays in Columbus.
Yeah, Columbus.
Easy team on the road.
Yeah.
Columbus has lost 5 in a row. The Penguins always play well in that building. And there would be less pressure on Jarry playing on the road. 100%.
100%.
That crowd turned on him opening night against the Rangers. They turned on him again when we saw him at home. And listen, he needs to prove that he's got some mental toughness that he can deal with stuff. But I also understand the pressure on him whenever he returns is immense. He's playing for his career right now, and I'm sure he's aware of that on some level.
Yeah, and let's not make it harder for him. Like, I mean, I don't feel for him. I don't care. This is a man league. But I want the best of him, and I don't think the best of him would be putting him out against, the Detroit isn't the 77 Canadians, but I said they do got Larkin and DeBrincat and Kane, and they got guys like Lucas Raymond.
Lucas Raymond, who kills the Penguins.
Yeah, like, they got more than Columbus does.
Oh yeah. No,
so
for sure
let's have him play. But then if Mr. Bloomquist loses tonight, then it's like, well, it's not going to be him.
Mm-hmm. No,
you play, then if you play Ned, well, then I guess you could play Ned. Then you play Jarry and Columbus.
Well, and it's interesting because a couple of weeks ago on his radio show, Kyle Dubas made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to keep 3 goaltenders on the NHL roster, because I get it. That screws up everything else. You have a shortage elsewhere on the roster if you do that. And, there's one goalie that's hardly ever going to play if you do that. That's not really ideal for anyone either. So I'm really curious to see what they do. I think if Bloomquist hadn't been so damn good, especially in his last game, they probably would have sent him down already. But now I think they're in a position like, well, it's easier to send him down. He doesn't have to clear waivers, and we can find out about Jarry. But who gives us the best chance to win right now? And it's him.
I think that's the whole key, Josh.
Yeah,
we're looking at this like we can't lose. We picked 2 of arguably the 3 worst teams in hockey, and we can't lose to them. Mm-hmm. And we're looking up at everybody, and we have a better chance with this kid.
I mean, he's been and look at some of the places he's played already. He's played in Toronto on Hockey Night in Canada. He's played in Edmonton. He just played in Washington. Like, he's playing in tough venues against some of the most potent offenses in the league, and he's acquitting himself really, really well. So you've learned that this kid can deal with the pressure a little bit for sure, which is an awfully encouraging thing. I get it. The Penguins coaching staff, it's in a weird situation for them. It's not for anybody who thinks they're in an easy spot. I don't think it is. That they don't want to just give up on Jarry, even though I know they're not happy with him. The fact is he's making a lot of money and he's not tradable right now, and you want to get the best out of him if you can. But you still want to give yourself the best chance to win games. So they're in a pretty dicey spot right now.
I want to ask you guys, like, on that, we all can speculate, but let's play the hypothetical game. Whenever I saw Penguins posted out, I kind of tweeted, I said, like, if it walks like a number 1 goalie and talks like a number 1 goalie, maybe it's your number 1 goalie, let's just assume Bloomquist plays okay or stays with his standard and Jarry stays with his standard. What do they do? I mean, they don't want to keep 3. He said that. So what do you think happens?
Well, if let's hypothetically say Jarry plays against the Red Wings and just gets shelled, then they can say they give him another start against the Sharks, and the Sharks run him out in the first period, which I don't know if that'll happen, but it's in play. Now, if something like that were to happen, at that point, I could see them just putting him on waivers. Somebody claims him, great. Otherwise, you're staying in Wilkes-Barre, and we're just going to go with these 2. I could see something like that. It's in play. I don't know how bad he would have to be for that to happen. But if he implodes, I don't think they would have much choice. If he plays better, I still think Blomquist is going back to Wilkes-Barre at some point if Jarry gets it together and establishes himself. But at that point, Ned would seem like an awfully logical trade candidate by the deadline, Joe.
Yeah, I just feel like that should have been done 2 weeks ago. I feel like he should have been waived and sent to Wilkes-Barre, what they call it in Toronto, Robidas Island. I just think that should have been done. And if he plays 30 games in Wilkes-Barre and goes 25-5, either he's tradable or he comes up at the deadline and we move Ned. Whatever the case may be, I don't think he's earned the right to play for our team that needs wins right now. Heaven forbid Bloomquist was Ned or worse, they would really be effed. But the fact this kid's really good, he's in like the 930 save percentage. It's crazy.
No,
it's like it's just like we're trying really hard, not us, but they are trying really either hard not to offend Jarry or, or be nice to him or keep his value up or whatever it is. But the bottom line has to be we need to win hockey games. And the guy that wins hockey games is named Joel Bloomqvist. And to me, that's the end of the story.
No, I don't disagree with you. I don't. But I could, from their standpoint, it's very clear to me that they're kind of going out of their way to massage Jarry's ego a little bit. Like they think that's the correct approach with him. And listen, they know him better than we do. He's a tough guy to figure out in that regard. He always strikes me as a guy that needs a kick in the ass more than he does a back rub. But they're doing what they think is best. I understand that, but it's a tenuous position because if he, like I said, if he implodes, he plays 4 games and loses 3 of them or whatever, it doesn't make the organization look good continually going back to him when you're desperate to win hockey games right now. So that's something to keep in mind. And even though his numbers in Wilkes-Barre were very good, I will caution you, in his last game down there, I think it was Friday night, he gave up 4 goals on the first 14 shots he faced. So
not great.
See. No, we'll see.
Patrick Kane and DeBrincat and Lucas Raymond weren't playing in Hershey.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah.
So
for concern. Well, we shall see. Tonight shall be an interesting game. I'll tell you what, if they win this game, then it might be as a Stanley Cup parade on the tee on the way home for Joe. Something that you should never worry about is your insurance. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about some Steelers and some 3 up, 3 down for the rest of the league. But somebody who never waivers and you're never worried about waiving him and sending him down to the minors, that would be the Reg Dunlap of insurance, Bill Neofus.
Hell of a guy, Bill Neofus, our first sponsor. He'll be in the Hall of Fame forever for that alone. And just your reminder, the Neofus Insurance Group is ready to assist you with all of your insurance needs at every stage of your life. Whether you're buying your first home or looking at downsizing retirement, whether you're adding cars and kids to your auto insurance, if you're an empty nester, they even have access to the best-in-class pet insurance for the furry members of the family. Very important. So with a fully licensed staff and over 60 years of experience in Pittsburgh and the surrounding communities, the Neofus Insurance Group is committed to providing the proper insurance solutions for its members. These people are the best. We would not lead you astray. Bill is as classy as it gets. His number is 412-364-3388. Give him a call.
Yeah, if Bill could offer insurance on, if you bet on the Penguins to score first in that game that Jarry comes back, that would be greatly appreciated. That's the crossover promotion we're all looking for.
Yes.
Can I know Bill has a million things he can do. Can he insure my television when Jarry makes his first start?
I will give him a call to inquire. If there's a way, he will find it.
He would make big business in Pittsburgh if he insures televisions when Jarry's in that.
You might get to see it in person on Wednesday night, Joe.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Or not nice. I don't know.
The Penguins have good insurance on the arena, I'm sure.
Yeah, if you see a 250-pound Dago jumping off a roof, jumping up the deck, you'll know. And not tonight, Tristan Jarry. Ah!
Hey, look, it's Joe Bartnick. Oh, he can fly. All right. On the second segment here, we're going to talk 3 up, 3 down around the NHL. And we will start with Joe did players, Josh did teams. And up number 1 for Josh is the 14-1 Winnipeg Jets, which, good Lord, I don't think anybody saw this coming.
We gotta. I have to have them on my 3 teams up list every week because this is absurd. It's now the best start in NHL history. They're 14-1. Their only loss was to the Maple Leafs. A game they almost came back. They were down big and they pulled within a goal in that game. They're undefeated on the road. They're the highest scoring team in the league. They've got the Vezina winner and Connor Hellebuck. I thought they'd be good this season. I certainly didn't see this coming, and obviously they won't maintain this pace forever. Got to give them credit, Joe. This is pretty impressive what we're watching.
I thought they were gonna have a down year. I was obviously wrong. I didn't check the numbers, but last week at this time when they were on the list, They had all of their everyone in their top 9 was on pace for over 70 points.
Oh, Jesus.
And Cal Connor is on pace for like 160.
Not
They were
bad.
going to be 140. Yeah. They're incredible. And they're playing better defense. They're defensemen who I always kind of knock come playoff time.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they're looking good. Morrissey is he's playing like Quinn Hughes.
He's been really good. You're right. He's a good player. They're a machine too. I just like how they can beat you in different ways too. They're pretty big and physical. They can play heavy hockey and beat you that way. They can skate. They've got a goaltender who can steal games. Like they can do it in a lot of different ways.
I mean, this literally sounds like last week's show, but literally, I just love Adam Laurie. I yearned for him 5 years ago when I thought we could get him. Now he's their captain, and I think I didn't talk about this on this show that it goes to prove what a cancer Blake Wheeler was. That the minute he gets removed, I mean, they're just setting league records for wins.
Yeah,
can't deny that has happened. That is the case.
He ran Line out of town because he wanted that spot on the power play, and he was such a cancer. The Big Buff said, "I don't want to come back from fishing."
Ice fishing, no less. Yeah. Maybe that was for the best. I don't know. We all know it's not easy for them to get people to sign there, but they obviously draft and develop really well. It's a good organization and good for the people of Manitoba. They must be. They were getting pretty fired up for that team when I was there about 3 weeks ago when the Penguins were there. I can't imagine what it's like now.
Yeah. Next up on the up list, this way they lost 2 games to go, but they've won 7 of their last 10, really rounding into form and into being a powerhouse. It's the New York Rangers.
Yeah, I feel like they're under the radar a little bit, but this is one of the best teams in hockey, Joe. I almost feel like they're going through the motions right now, but they're so talented that they're just going to win games.
Well, yeah, Zibanejad woke up. He's back on the top line, or his line is now reinforced with the Breadman. They're great. I mean, it's funny. Like their big thing in the post is like Sean Avery goes after Keandre. It's like Sean Avery, go away. That's the only drama of the Rangers. Although Lindy Ruff's boys went in there and gave him a pounding on the weekend.
It did. How about that? Yeah. That got everybody's attention, I think, when we saw that score. Like,
Tage Thompson.
And Buffalo's starting to play a little better, finally.
Tage Thompson sighting. Nice to see.
How about that?
What? And Minnesota rounds out the ups that they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Good old Marc-Andre Fleury. They did have a nice, it was against the Sharks. They beat Macklin Celebrini, and Celebrini had a really nice goal. It was a meaningless one at the end of the game, but a really nice shot over Fleury's glove. But Minnesota looks pretty good, don't they, Josh?
I keep bringing them up because on paper, I don't think they're anything special. I did not think they would be good at all. I have to give them credit for the way they've started this season, the way they're able to generate offense on multiple lines. It's not just Kaprizov. They've really got some depth on that team. They are operating at a much higher level than I expected, Joe.
Yeah. And Kirill he's a superstar. Mm-hmm. They finally have a superstar talent, and
they never had before.
Yeah. And our other Penguin, the other Penguin goaltender over there, not named Marc-Andre Fleury, he bounced back after being terrible last season. Mm-hmm. So he's having to bounce back here. And I'm just happy for Billy Guerin.
I think Billy knows what he's doing. I really do. And especially when you consider the salary cap mess he inherited with Suter and Parisi and everything. He's put together good teams every year he's been there.
Because this is primarily this is a Penguins podcast, I will say it's like, JR and Sully, we could have had Talkin and Billy G. Could have been the heir apparent over here.
Can't deny it.
I definitely love Sully. I'm not trying to run Sully out of town, but I'm just saying.
Just imagine.
Whenever people say, you look around, who's better than Sullivan? Well, no one really. You can't find anyone better. The old Tomlin theory. But Ricky T's pretty good. T's pretty good.
Yeah.
And if he would have named his successor, we wouldn't have had the Hextall BS.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say you could find a lot better GMs than Ron Hextall. That's for sure.
A lot better. I can dig them up. They're better than Ron Hextall.
On the way down, we've got the Nashville
Speaking on the
Predators.
way down, that's a good segue.
The Nashville Predators, negative
Oh.
13 goal differential, and the Steven Stamkos signing is not really producing much in the way of wins in the Music City.
Did you see what Barry Trotz said a few days ago, too? He said, if we don't start winning, the rebuild's going to happen a lot sooner than people think. You don't hear general managers say stuff like that in November very often, but listen, the expectations for this team, a lot of people thought this was a Stanley Cup team on paper, and Joe, they have been terrible.
You know, they lost a lot of what they built. Last year, they were like a little less than average team, I thought, but they made a great playoff run because they got all their third and fourth liners to buy in. They let a lot of those guys go and brought in a bunch of guys used to, I mean, I'm one of the biggest Steven Stamkos fans that doesn't live in Tampa Bay. And I thought last year he played incredible. He's diving in front of pucks. He was going to be a free agent. I thought I thought he cared more than anybody on the Lightning team. But Stamkos is not a third and fourth line grinder, and that's how they make their hay down there in Nashville. And they seem to kind of lose that mojo. It's kind of like new money.
Yeah,
they got new money down there. And it's kind of not the same kind of team. And I love Saros. He's played a little better now, but Saros has been down this year.
He has, and maybe part of that is because they're trying to win games in different ways. As you suggested, they're trying to be a more offensive-minded team with the money they spent, and that's just never how they've been designed to win. That's not how Barry Trotz usually builds teams to win. I guess in that way they're trying to figure themselves out. And I love Stamkos, too. He's one of my favorite people in hockey. Just a great guy. He's a Hall of Famer. He hasn't been very good. Like, he doesn't look comfortable there at all to me.
Looks okay on the power play, but but you know what? He was kind of that way in Tampa last year.
He was not the same guy the last couple of years, 5-on-5. He was not. He's getting old. Let's be honest. So keep your eye on that team. I don't know. They had huge expectations, but boy, they've not been good at all.
Yeah, there should be a study topic for another day of how teams cannot get out of their DNA. Like the Penguins will always score a bunch of goals, the Predators will always play defense, and the Devils will always win 2-1. Like it's just amazing.
I just want to give. How do you rebuild on that team now? You can say that to scare people. He came out and said 2 days later that the Bruni's okay. Brunette's not going anywhere. You're going to move guys you just signed?
I think that was just a scare tactic from Barry, is what I think.
Exactly, because they're not moving Stamkos, they're not moving Marcia Show, they're not moving Yossi. They just paid Saros all that money. It's like those guys are going anywhere. So so
it felt like a coach talking like a GM for the first time, or a GM talking like a coach. Like that's something you say in between the second and third period. It's a little different world in the GM world.
It's the thing would be is like, he loves Brunette. He's a Brunette guy. The move would be he fires Brunette and goes behind the bench. But it's like, well, you're the guy that picked all these players. It's your team, Barry.
Oh, it reminded me when he said that, actually, one of my favorite Jim Rutherford stories many years ago. Penguins were playing like crap. They were in Vegas practicing. I asked Jim if he had a minute for an interview after the practice, and he said, sure. But then he waited till the team got on the bus, and he said, let's do it over there. And he did the interview right in front of the team bus just so the whole team saw him talking with the media. Then he traded somebody like 2 days later. It was great.
Good old JR. GM JR. But down number 2 on your list is Tampa Bay Lightning. Kind of sticking with the Stamkos theme. They started 3-1 and now they're 4-5-1 and kind of drifting a little bit.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, they've lost 4 or 5 in a row, right, Joe?
Well, my big thing is they beat the Flyers in a shootout. Come on now, you gave the Flyers a loser point. You only scored. It was all fun and games. Kucherov beat the whole team. He beat the whole team in the first period. I'm like, this is fun. I'm going to start watching this game. And all of a sudden, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tampa is so top heavy. And Gensel hasn't really had a great start there. He's been okay, but just okay. Kucherov's been playing out of his mind. I don't need to tell anybody how great that guy is. But other than him, like their bottom 6 is not going to score that much. It's not a great defensive team. I still think they're probably a playoff team. but they have not played well recently at all. If Kucherov cools off at all, they're going to struggle.
Cooch is on fire. I'll tell you though, like Cirelli, once every 3 or 4 games, Cirelli looks like regular Cirelli.
Mm-hmm.
But then some games he's not there. I don't know if age is catching up to him or he knows it's a long season. He
plays a hard game. I mean,
he does play a hard game. Same with Nick Paul. Every 3 games, Nick Paul looks like Nick Paul. And then you don't see him. I watch a lot of Lightning games. I think their big thing is McDonough looks like a brontosaurus. He looks old.
Yeah.
Hedman looks good, but he looks old.
Yep.
And let's face it, Herbeck's and their other D guys, they're not the greatest defensemen. They're okay. They're good when they're standing next to Hedman from 5 years ago.
Yeah, their blue line after Hedman does not scare anybody.
Cernak's not what he used to be.
No.
Sure. Good thing they won their 1.5 Stanley Cups when they did. Yeah, and then battling the basement. Sorry, did you have more, Joe, on that?
No, go ahead.
Oh, battling Philly for the basement. We've got the Columbus Blue Jackets rounding out the bottom feeders, and hopefully we can keep kicking them down with even if Tristan Jarry is in net.
They had a nice start to the season, given the expectation level in Columbus. Sometimes teams can do that with adrenaline for a little bit, but on paper, they might be the worst team in the league. They're clearly a bottom 2, bottom 3 team on paper. They've lost 5 in a row now, I think it is. They're starting to look like the Blue Jackets that we were all expecting. That this is a bad hockey team that's rounding into form, unfortunately, for the good people of Columbus.
They're terrible. But how do they get these wins where they'll smoke a really good team? Like, where's that bar in Columbus that people get lost in the night before? Because I'd like to find it, because it took me 9 hours to find a good time in that town.
Didn't they beat Edmonton 6-0 or something?
Yeah, they beat Toronto. They beat Toronto after Berube laid into them, and they still beat them. Yeah. It's like, what?
I know.
Yeah. So wherever that team is at, let's not get that team on Friday night.
Now, usually when Big Brother shows up in Columbus, things go well. So. The Penguins' history in that building is unbelievable. They almost never lose to that team.
I don't even like picking on Steubenville West anymore. Steubenville West anymore. Not even because of Johnny Hockey, because I just feel bad for Mearsy. It's just poor man.
Yeah, it's like Greg Brown, great guy. Starts broadcasting for the Pirates in like 93 full time.
No. It's also there's nothing exciting about them. They're boring to watch too.
But he knew what he was getting into, Greg Brown. I don't feel he's taking a paycheck with everybody else in that Pirate organization. F him. We're talking hockey. Mearsy followed his boyhood idol, and now he's in Columbus. I feel sorry, Mearsy. That's all.
Yeah.
You're never gonna hear me say, "Oh, well, didn't the Cobra guy in the Hall of Fame this weekend?" That's the best Pirate news ever.
Oh yeah, we'll see.
That's something I can talk about with pride, not like Cueto dropped the ball. Oh, big deal.
Well, there's not much pride in PNC Park lately. Now, Joe, on your ups, we saw him up close on Friday, but we ended up shutting him out. But Alexander Ovechkin, 5 goals in his last 5 games, 2 in his last game after he played the Penguins. And he certainly, which by the way, I mean, even though we shut him out, it's amazing with his lack of speed, how goal scorers still find a way to get the puck on their stick, 7-8 feet outside of the net. But Ovi is certainly he's pushing to pass Wayne Gretzky sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I mean, he's Ovi, and he played a little physical against the Penguins. I love Gino giving him a little tap on the shin before the game. It was such a great game. It was one of those things you're not going to only a few more times to see it. I thought Ovi played great against the Penguins, and that's why he's scoring goals. Bloomfist just stood on his head, but he got 2 on Saturday. He's just on fire right
now. I give the man credit after the way he looked, especially in the first half of last season. I think we were all thinking, oh boy, he might be about done. And then he had that bad postseason, terrible series against the Rangers. He was invisible. And you're thinking, maybe he's going to need more time than we realized to break this record. But He might do it. What does he need, like 40 or 41 to do it this year? I think
32 more.
that's what he has. Okay, it's in play the way he's going. He would need, about 42 for the season. By the way, the last game of the season is Washington at Pittsburgh. Just throwing that out there. Wouldn't that be something? High marks for Ovi. He's not just doing it on the power play either. He's been better 5-on-5. Great goal scorers. They just know where to go. The puck follows them. And he's still, I was watching him in warm-ups the other night, shooting the puck. He hasn't lost much on that shot. Like when he shoots the puck, it still looks different than anyone else.
if he's like 2 away, it'd be hilarious. And then Sullivan scratches Carlson, so it doesn't make it easy on him.
Tristan Jarry's been sent to Wheeling for that.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I'm gonna make sure he doesn't show up anywhere near the arena. Next up on your up, you got the Hall of Famer now, Jeremy Roenick.
You gotta give it to JR. I mean, he waited so long. He's been my poster child for he should be in the Hall of Fame. He finally made it. He goes up there. He says he's going to have a fun speech tonight. He goes to the old man's game. He dances, does the it's a season for JR. I've been it hurt me when he was a Flyer, but he bounced back to play golf around the West Coast for another 10 years. Believe me, JR. No one was after the morning skate getting in 9 more than JR the last 10 years of his career. But him in Chicago's the great. Chicago JR was a notch below Lemieux and Yager, just a notch. I mean, JR top 3 guy in the NHL in the early 90s.
Yeah, he was great. There's no disputing that. He's absolutely a Hall of Famer. Not only was he a great talent and fun to watch, but like he just had the personality that you don't see anymore in the NHL. He made the game fun.
Yeah.
You might have loved him, you might have hated him. He would run his mouth a little bit. He was just a fun player to hate or a fun player to love. And I think people forget because he played forever. And so he obviously wasn't the same player late in his career. But you're right, prime Roenick, that guy was great. I mean, he was so highly skilled. He could score in so many different ways. He had kind of an edge about him, too, the way he played the game. I loved watching him play. Oh, yeah. He's absolutely deserving of being in the
And he got screwed over by NBC, but we won't get into that.
And one of the greatest movie lines. It's not so much me, it's Roenick.
Oh, yeah. He's in Swingers.
Yeah. Number 3 on your up list would be Whitehall native, first game back after his appendectomy, stopping 38 of 40 shots, Mr. John Gibson.
Just got to give Gibby the tap of the stick. I mean, he's back. I love it.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's see how he plays because they've got a special-looking young goaltender in Anaheim now. But listen, if he and Gibby can stay healthy and play at this level, the Ducks might be better than people think. I think they are getting better, and if you have goaltending like that, you're going to win some games.
Yeah, every time I watch a lot of Ducks, obviously. Every time I say the Ducks are better than you think, now Duckies, then they look like crap. But the Duckies they're not as bad as some people think.
No, they're okay. They're getting better.
Yep. And 0 goals in his last 5 games. That'll be David Pasternak. The Bruins, we'll get into that a little bit more too, but they're kind of drifting at the moment. And he's down on your number 1 on your down list, Joe.
Yeah, he's never on my down list because number 2 on my down list, I have Jim Montgomery, so it all rolls into one here. Yeah. His coach calls him out. Unlike Dylan Larkin, who gets called out, he starts scoring 5 power play goals in like 5 games. Unlike the Rat, who gets called out, he starts waking up. Pasta, who I didn't know was sensitive, gets called out, and goose egg.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. Listen, this is one of the great players in the game. Few people have the talent that this guy has. He got benched for a while too, did he not?
Well, that's what I mean. He got sat for a period.
You don't.
Now this is what I wanted to get into. This is why he's number. Yeah, Jim Montgomery. Like, I hope you freshened up your resume, or I hope you have an apartment in Toronto to work for TSN because you're gone. You're picking on Pasta. They don't need you, Jim Montgomery. Jim Montgomery's never proved to me he's a good coach. He messed up a 2-car funeral. He doesn't know what goalie to play in the playoffs, and now he's going to bench Pasta.
Yeah,
I don't care. You miss a shift. I don't care. You want to verbally or you want to write on the paper. You sit someone for a period in a game you're winning. That's just trying to show him up. And I'm telling you, Mr. Montgomery, go have another drink because you're gonna have some time on your hands. You're not messing with Pasta in Boston.
He's asking for trouble. I guess I give him credit on some level. It took some guts to do that. But you have to know that if you lose Pasta, there's a good chance you're getting fired. That's just the way it is. And that Bruins team is not playing very well. They had a pretty good start. They've not been very good recently. You could see the direction they're headed in, right? I mean, their Stanley Cup window, I think, is closed. There's a rebuild coming in Boston.
Well, you know,
I think.
Here, I'll just make this. Let's just say they get Quenneville.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's guys on that team. Swayman gets hot. You can't tell me they can't win 4 playoff series if they get in. To me, if by God the Penguins, the Penguins can't win 4 playoff series.
No,
but I think Boston possibly. Lindholm played good now. He's had a good couple games in a row. They got some guys on that team. I'm not trying to argue with you for the sake of argument. No. We're on ESPN. I just think, I don't know if their window's completely shut like our Stanley Cup window.
Well,
completely.
Yes, clearly. No doubt. I mean, they should still be a playoff team at least.
I don't think. Well, I think now they're trending like they're, heaven forbid the Senators are moving okay.
They are.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like they're. I mean, they're not one. They're not Tampa. I'm not even Tampa. I don't know.
But if Pasta doesn't get it going,
no. What I'm saying is they get a new. They're hanging around, and January 1st they get new blood. They get Pasta wakes up a little bit. They get Quenneville. They're rolling in. They pick up another center at the deadline, or maybe Tyler Johnson plays. I don't know, whatever they're going to do. But I don't know. I just don't think that they're completely. Oh well, the rebuild starts now.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, their door is closing, but not quite slammed like the Penguins.
Stanley Cup door, not playoff door, please.
Yeah.
Please, Corey. I'm hanging on here by thread.
And number 3, because that was number 1 and 2 together. Number 3 on your down list, Joe, is Tanner Jeannot, which 3-game suspension. I kind of thought could have been a 5-gamer. What are you doing? A cheap shot on Brock Besser, nowhere near the puck, directly to the head. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't watching the game, so maybe there was something that happened before it, but what in the world is going on there?
Nothing happened before it. And Tanner Jeannot went from being everyone's darling. Here's a guy that can do, bench 500 pounds and do 90 pull-ups and scored 30 goals for the Nashville Predators, who Tampa Bay gave away like 15 draft picks to get. He couldn't be coached by Cooper, which is a bad thing. If you don't flourish in Tampa Bay,
right,
you're not going to flourish. He's then just discarded to the Kings. He's on the 4th line on the Kings. That's a big come down from a guy who got I think he came in 2nd or 3rd in Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
that's why he's on the down, and now he does that. I think the Kings are playing a big game. They're playing Vancouver. They're going to kill a 5-minute major in the first period. That's not a way to win coach's approval.
No, it's not. He could have gotten more than 3 games. That was a really dirty hit. I mean, there's no place for that. And when I watch the Kings play, I barely notice the guy some nights. He does not make an impact of a positive way any longer. It's been a weird career because I'll never forget what Tampa gave up to get him. Oh my God, which we all thought was too much at the time. And that certainly proved to be true. I don't know what happened to that guy, if he got a little full of himself or what. He's not the player he was a couple of years ago. No, not even close.
It's almost like we've been talking about Nashville a lot. It's almost like he fit perfectly into that system.
Yes. And some guys are like that. And the second they leave
wheeling
that
and
system,
dealing, he's not a wheeling and dealing Tampa Bay guy.
No.
And he's not a top 6 guy in LA either. So
Yeah.
He's definitely not a top 6 guy in LA.
Well,
he's going to be a top 6 guy in Ontario is what he's going to be in about 3 years. He'll probably I hope he faces Jarry in the AHL All-Star game in Palm Springs in February.
That's if Jarry makes the AHL All-Star game.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, that'll do it for the 3 Up, 3 Down segment. We come back on the third segment. We're going to talk a little bit of Steelers. They, I don't know if it's an upset, but they pass a test in Washington against the Commanders, former football team, used to be Redskins. We'll talk about that on the third segment of Two for Talking. Welcome back to the third segment of Two for Talking. And, Joe, I just want to know, I mean, we can get into it, more detail, but the Steelers, win 28-27 in Washington. And there's a lot to talk about with, Russell Wilson showing what a professional quarterback does for the third straight game. Nobody here is crying for Kenny Pickett anymore or Justin Fields. But Joe, what was your reaction to the special teams botched fake punt on our own 20-yard line? Not Danny Smith's fault. Great call. Should have been executed. But I can imagine your blood pressure kind of went through the roof whenever they dropped that.
I just couldn't believe it. I'm if he catches the kid dropped the ball. Okay, so it's his fault. I just don't like that on your 10-yard line. I think it's a great call on the 40, but when you're literally giving him 3 points, when you mess it up, I didn't care for it. But Josh can speak on this if you want to. I just really want to accentuate the positive because they overcame that.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time I was watching with a couple of friends of mine, we're like, is Mike Williams playing? Is he playing? We didn't even know he's playing. Oh, they tried trading for him, even playing. We didn't know him until he caught the game-winning touchdown pass. And you are so right that now we have a professional quarterback. And we have a professional offense. And that was watching a professional football team play offense and score 28 points on the Sunday afternoon to 2 grade A wide receivers. It was incredible. We had running game, we had a passing game, we had the full soup to nuts. We had everything going for us.
What a fun game that was. And listen, Washington's really good. To go there and win, that's clearly a playoff team. And they really, the Steelers defense on the surface, gave up some points, and you can say they didn't play great, but Jalen Daniels still had, one of his least impressive performances of the season. I just thought it was a gutsy win, not only to overcome the fake punt call, which I did not like either, but I think even more impressive to have the fumble at the 1 yard line where Jalen Warren lost the fumble. And then to overcome, because when that happened, we're all thinking, oh boy,
game's over.
Yeah, you're not coming back from that. To get the ball back and go back. And I think it was like 2nd and 15, then it was a 3rd and 9, and then Russ throws up the moon ball on 3rd and 9 to Williams. That's a big time win. It really is. That's the kind of win that's going to get the whole city excited about this team, and it should be. The AFC is way better than the NFC. The Steelers might be one of the 5 or 6 best teams in the league right now. I really think they are.
They look it. They do. What a difference a quarterback makes. It's like
yes, and I really think Wilson's presence forces defenses to respect the Steelers' ability to throw the ball, and I really think that's opening everything up for the running game too. You're not seeing the 8-man fronts as much, so they can incorporate Najee, who's having a great season. I thought Warren had his best game of the year. So all of a sudden, this is an offense that can hurt you in numerous ways. And George Pickens, listen, this guy has star potential. We all know that. And with Russell throwing him the ball, we're really going to see him have a huge impact. I'm excited about this team. And Joe, I don't know when you're going back to California. You got to stick around for the weekend to go to the Ravens game. This is going to be the crowd of the year, the game of the year in Pittsburgh. I can't wait for this one.
It's gonna be awesome. I just now they have a guy that they can't triple team Pickens anymore either.
Yeah. No.
You got to respect. And that was a hell of a catch he made.
It was. You know what's great about that play? That was a play the Steelers said after the game was specifically designed for Calvin Austin. but he had just gotten hurt a few plays earlier. So Russell Wilson literally told Williams what to do before the play. It's like, he said, here's the route to run. Just run this route. They'd never practiced it, and he did it. It was great throw, great catch. Like, how about that?
Because like 2 weeks before, he threw a ball, the overhead catch, and I think the white kid, it went right through his arms. Remember, I said Collinsworth got on him for like, well, that pass was perfect. What are you talking about? It went right through his arms, and Mr. Williams caught it. I just think it was a huge win, and just the way he spreads the field around, where it's not like tunnel vision. It gets Freiermuth open more because people aren't just like, okay, he's been watching Freiermuth for an hour. We know he's getting the ball. It's like he's looking here. He's like, okay, there's the tight end.
You could see with Russell just the way he reads the field, the way he sees the field, the way he reads defenses. Like he's just so in charge mentally. Even the touchdown to Freiermuth, it looked like a simple enough play. He knew where he was going before the ball was snapped because he had already analyzed the defense and he made it look so easy. But a lot of quarterbacks who don't necessarily understand the concepts as well or see the field as well might not have made it look that easy on that touchdown pass. So I like you said, he's just a professional quarterback. He might not be as physically gifted as he was 10 years ago, but he can still use his legs just enough. He's giving this team a different dimension. This is a really good team, guys. I mean, they can beat you a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I'm so impressed. The other thing we have to mention, though, is what a sweet spot in the final play of the game. I mean, it reminded me of Ohio State, Michigan, when the referee just ran up and just goes, first down, Ohio State. I'm like, you're not going to measure that? That was what are you talking about? And he didn't get it. And the same thing, I'm like, that looks like it's such a first down. The guy runs up and goes, first down, Steelers, first down. It's like, what? And they had to reverse it from like what was called on the field. I'm like, anyway.
I will say I thought it was gonna end. I think it was short, but it was not.
It's still a bad spot, though, right?
Not a half yard short. You know,
right.
I mean, it's 50-50 whether he gained it. You know, he had it before he actually knelt down, obviously, but yeah, it was not.
Well, it was interesting when he caught it, he had it, but then on his own, he did go the wrong way a little bit as momentum took him that way. So he might not have had the first down, but you're right, Corey. The ref still spotted it a half yard further away than he should have. So it was a bad spot.
He was just it just pointed yep, no, it's first down.
I'm thinking, man, this dude's got the money line or something. He's not messing around.
Yeah, and it seemed like too. They would always wherever you catch it, they used to always walk it up to. Yes. It's like no, well, they threw him back 5 feet, but he caught it here.
Right.
Like he didn't get the benefit of that doubt at all.
No, he did not. And it's very interesting to see how the game would have gone.
Oh, yeah.
They were only about 5 yards out of field goal range if they had a first down there. Steelers were probably in trouble at that point because I didn't think the Steelers didn't give up a ton of yards, but a lot of that was because of all the penalty yardage they took. Peasy had a bad game. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say they shut the Commanders down by any stretch. It wasn't a great game for their defense. So I think some fortunate things had to happen for them, but they still put up 28 points, and they still found a way in a couple of key moments. So sometimes you just have to win games like that to get maybe an improbable win, especially given their schedule down the stretch. They needed to win a road game like this, I think, to put themselves in a better position.
We don't play Washington hardly ever in Washington. Man, there was a million Steeler fans there.
Oh my God,
crazy.
I mean, listen, there are always Steelers fans on the road, but that was insane.
They were on the sideline
for a regular city, not a Sunbelt city, like a regular city,
right? Which has a really good team that they're excited about too. I mean,
you can hear "Here we go Steelers."
Oh yeah,
the game. Yes.
Yeah, that was impressive.
And the towels were crazy. Yeah, it was awesome. It was
just a fun game. Like the Steelers the last couple of years, like even when they've won games, they've been really boring.
Yeah.
Like that was a fun game. Like that was
back
really
and
good
forth
stuff.
And up and down, all the emotions. I saw this stat. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it blew my mind. If Russell Wilson throws 2 more touchdowns, he will have thrown more touchdown passes than any quarterback for the Steelers since Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh,
and he's
played.
Well,
that makes sense.
I know, but he's played 3 games.
It was the first time a Steeler has thrown for 3 touchdown passes in a game since Ben's last year, which is incredible. It tells you how bad they've been at that position the last couple of years. And it's funny when they get somebody who, like you say, Joe, is a professional. All
I
of a
will
sudden,
say,
they look good.
I will say this though, Josh. He has two wide receivers now too.
Yeah.
I don't think some of those guys had quite. I mean, Mike Williams. I don't care how old he is. Mike Williams in a wheelchair is better than the guy we traded to North Carolina.
Well, I don't know about that, but let me say this: Mike Williams has one real strength. He's big, and he can make plays down the field. That's always who he has been. What's the one thing Russell does really, really well? Russell throws that moon ball, and we know about George Pickens' ball skills. Williams is a big guy who can box people out. I think he complements Russell really well, and I think it makes a lot of sense in retrospect the trade the Steelers made. You got a couple of threats down the field now. You can't just triple cover George every play. That will open things up even more. And if you're a defensive coordinator preparing for that, your safeties have to be aware of that. They got to stay back. But all of a sudden, you got 7-man fronts for the Steelers to run against. And the one thing their offensive line does pretty darn well is run block. So all of a sudden, you see how they're becoming a problem for the opposition.
I just have 2 more points on the Steelers. One is Minka's been maligned a lot this year. Mm-hmm. Minka made the big tackle on 4th down.
He did.
And 2, Patrick Queen played incredible yesterday.
Yeah, how about that?
I mean, he played he was everywhere.
I feel like he's been a little disappointing so far this season, but yesterday that looked like the guy the Steelers were expecting when they
way downfield, making big tackles, making big tackles in the back. He was doing everything.
I feel like Jaden Daniels tried to bounce one outside, and when Patrick Queen took him down, he was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm not doing that again." Like,
right. Queen was awesome. And a shout out to our guy Cam Hayward too, who wow, he's been turning back the clock. He had just a dominant performance yesterday. A couple of sacks. I can't say enough for the big man. He's still got it in his mid-30s.
Making me look stupid.
I hope 56 is not too bad.
Yeah, because he was really good yesterday too. And then that ankle injury didn't look good.
That looked like a basketball injury when you just step and it goes the wrong way.
Yeah, he stepped on Daniel's foot, and that, just unlucky. Luckily, they do have some depth at that position. I think Herbig will be back soon, and they just got the guy from Green Bay too, so that's good. But Highsmith's a really good player. Let's hope that's not a season-ending situation.
No, exactly. I think in a couple of weeks.
That's okay.
I was like, yesterday I was screaming, just tape it up.
I think poor bastard couldn't walk. So
I think Dulac just tweeted out a little bit ago, said that it's looking like it's 2 to 3 games.
There you go.
That's fine.
It looks like a standard Bartnick High School bad ankle.
That's okay. If he can be good to go come December, fine.
Yeah. And I'll just leave it at this with the Steelers. I mean, there's not a team in the AFC that they can't beat. I won't say that the Chiefs at 9-0 are as bad as the 11-0 Steelers from 2020, but they're certainly not a good team. They're not the best undefeated team I've ever seen. It's not like the Patriots of 2007.
They could be 6-3 very easily.
Well, here's the thing: we have a good defense. I don't think it's as great as some people think, but it's an excellent team. We have an excellent defense. But even the best teams, it's the NFL. They're going to score 20, 24 points. Now we have an offense. Now, with Russell Wilson, we have an offense that can score 28 points.
Mm-hmm. No, that gives you a puncher's chance against even the Buffaloes or Kansas Cities or Baltimore.
Exactly.
Those might be the 3 best teams in the AFC, but I think the Steelers are probably the 4th team in that equation right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, let's see how things go. We'll probably learn some things about the Steelers next week. This is going to be some kind of a game because when Baltimore's good, when they're on top of their game, like they look like the best team in football, but they have lost 3 games, and the Steelers have won, I think, 7 of 8 against them. They know how to play against Lamar, so it's a fascinating matchup. How about the day CBS has, by the way? Steelers Ravens at 1, Bills Chiefs at 4. We're all going to be glued to our TVs all Sunday watching.
Oh, that's great. I hope Nance is in Buffalo then.
He is.
Oh, good.
So we don't have Tony Romo.
Oh, yeah. Here's the funny thing. Romo, I've watched it for over 50 years. I know the play, too. I know what's coming.
You're gonna have Ian Eagle once again.
I love Ian Eagle. I love the bird. Well, I don't not like Romo. I just don't like hearing what the play is going to be. It's like the guy that tells you what song. Like, I don't want us to set list before the concert.
Well, I don't like when Schefter used to tweet out who a team was going to draft 2 minutes before they announced it. I want the suspense of the announcement. I don't want Adam Schefter to tweet it a minute in advance.
Or Jeff Merrick.
That's right. That's right.
Oh my! And lastly, I mean, have you guys ever seen the hard count work? I can't remember that working.
My God.
And that poor guy.
I love the way the Steelers reacted. They just went crazy. The whole sideline, they couldn't believe they pulled it off because the game still was not over. Like Washington was out of timeouts, but they were still going to get the ball back with about a minute left. I mean, they only needed a field goal, so there was still some work left to be done in that game.
I know that was the fastest. I mean, that was the slowest. That we ran nothing off the clock in that minute we had the ball. It was like, how is it still a minute and 6 seconds left? What? Like,
that's why you don't waste those timeouts. They had them.
Yep. And you look at Tomlin. He went over to the referee. I don't know what he said, but I guarantee you, when they went out, he went over and he's standing next to the referee in his ear, and he's probably saying, "We're going to call a timeout with 1 second left on the."
He probably said, "We're trying to draw him offside. Keep an eye on it."
Yeah. And that guy, just the poor guy, and he just immediately just put his hands on his head.
He was a rookie too, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. So, but all in all, hey, it's fun.
Fun week. Penguins beat the Capitals, and the Steelers had a big win with 2 touchdowns. Long touchdown pass. It's incredible.
Pittsburgh took it out on DC this weekend. I love it.
No doubt.
Well, hey, tonight, guys, you guys will be there. And if you're there, if you're one of the 14,000 that'll be there tonight, please make your voices heard and bring home 2 points. Let's go Pens, and email the show. You can get in touch with us. You can follow us all on Twitter, and then contact at twofortalking.com, and we'll talk to you guys next week.